and welcome to another episode of Tesseract Talks, the place where we put the spotlight on tech trends, startups, and VCs. I'm your host, Marko, the founder and CEO of Tesseract Analytics, and it is my pleasure today to have Sarfaraz Kazi as our guest. He's a co-founder and CTO at Hive Pro, a cybersecurity company on a mission to make threat exposure visible, prioritized, and actionable. Sir, welcome. How are you?
Hey, Marco, I'm good. First of all, congratulations on two things. One is this amazing gig you're doing, talking to founders. It's quite interesting. And B, getting my name right on the first time.
Thanks. So before we dig into more detailed questions, why don't we start first by you telling us a bit more about your career background? How did it all start from the early days at Systems and Information Technology over Spectrami and then until Hive Pro?
Yeah, so, I started as a systems engineer in systems and information technology. I moved to a country called Botswana, which has more cattle than humans. And there I learned a lot of patience, especially with printers, right? And so 10 years, that's where I literally started with security. It was still information security before cybersecurity. And then, I went on to become the CEO of the company. I realized at one point in time, 10 years into the job, I was closer to the end than the beginning. Moved to Dubai. That's where I met my co-founder Anand. That's where Spectrami happened. Me and Anand started it. Currently, it's doing around $150 million in revenue. And this is where we started bringing leading edge technologies emanating out of US and accelerating their international time to market. The profound realization I had in the 8 or 9 years I had in Spectrami was cybersecurity wasn't a career; it was a full contact sport. You get bruised, right? And then, we realized, there's so much challenges customers have. Right? If you look 10 years back, the 2001 to 2010 was a decade of prevention. That's where the firewall, antivirus solutions were there. 2011 was when detection and response was in nascent stage, like SIM, vulnerability management, EDR, I think, so started around 2013, and we were very quick in identifying those trends. What we realized as the decade closed was the next decade is going to be the decade of prediction, right? And so there we realized we got this dangerous idea that we could fix the mess, or at least reorganize why cybersecurity burns. That's where Hive Pro was conceived.
So what challenge in the market kind of motivated you to start Hive Pro, and maybe give us a bit of insight in those early days of Hive Pro?
Sure. Hive Pro was fundamentally born at a very high level. The genesis of our existence lied of our customers getting tired of tools that promised the moon and barely delivering flashlight, because customers didn't want dashboard, they wanted answers. And so what we envisaged, and this was like 5 years back, we didn't want one more tool in the stack, but a reason customers could delete 5. Right. I mean, I think so. One of the things you talk to CISOs today, one of the biggest challenges they have is, too many tool fragmentation. There is inefficiency of data interchange between siloed tools, right? And so most solutions today are what I call as banded on broken process, right? So if you look at vulnerability management, that's the area that we started off with. And you look at 15 years. So let's take an example of antivirus, right? Or EDR. The leaders 10, 15 years back, the Symantec, McAfee, they're not the leaders today, right? It's the CrowdStrikes, the defenders of the world. If you look at SIM, the Microsoft, Secure Onyxes of the world are leaders today. 10 years back, it was, again, the likes of McAfee, logarithm stuff, right? So the industry has really evolved. But if you look into vulnerability management, 15 years back or 20 years back, the leaders were Tenable, Qualys, Rapid7. They're still the leaders today. So what you realize is that there wasn't much innovation which happened in vulnerability management, right? And so we thought that scanning was commoditized, right? People could do scanning. What they really struggled was prioritizing what needs to be fixed, right? And so we wanted to address the signal to noise ratio problem. The second problem, like I said, was too many siloed tools. So you could have breach and attack simulation on one side, but would not tell your vulnerability management to increase or reduce the risk based on the efficacy of the controls, right? Or you could have asset management, right? But asset management would not tell your vulnerability management which assets are not scanned, right? And then you had VPT technologies, and customers would always struggle, well, what do I need to use what score do I use? And so we realized that there was a need in the market, first of all, to collapse different tools into a single platform. And you could do one of two things. You could have a platform consolidation, wherein you could bring different siloed tools into a single data platform, or you could do platformization where you replace multiple tools. And that's the whole genesis of Hive Pro, which was to be a leader in predictive or proactive security, anticipate attacks before it happens, and then eliminate or reduce the tool surface.
Amazing. Can you tell us maybe how different teams within organization can potentially benefit from Hive Pro? And if you can share some examples and use cases. And also, do you target horizontally any kind of industry, or do you focus on a couple of specific industries?
Sure. So typically, because we are a platform and we solve or collapse different tool sets, there are different personas that could benefit out of the solution, right? Eventually, if you look at it, you have the reactive security stack, right? Security operations, wherein you have incident detection, incident response, you have the SIM team, the log management team, the EDR, NDR team, and then you have what we call as proactive security, which is something new, which is coming up, which analysts like Gartner, IDC, Forrester are talking about, wherein so vulnerability management is going to evolve into something called exposure assessment, right? Because you could understand your threat exposure by looking at those vulnerabilities. That's the first thing that you want to do. And the second thing then you want to do once you understand your exposure to threat is validate, right? Validate your exposure through attack simulation or security control validation. And then you also fuse different offensive exercises like red teaming, purple teaming onto it. And so if you look at the personas who use this is so vulnerability management team can use it for conventional vulnerability management, but also as part of your security operations or your threat exposure team can use this for exposure assessment. And then you have the red and purple team, which can use the exposure validation or security control validation platform. And then we also provide high fidelity intelligence, which the threat intelligence or your current SOC team can use to augment the current reactive tool set.
Mm-hmm. Really interesting.
If that makes sense.
Okay. And so what's next for Hive Pro? Maybe in terms of like product or some events for this year or on the horizon. And if people are interested, how can they test your product potentially? Where can they find you?
Sure. So what next? I would say, if I think about it at a very fundamental level, one of the challenge cybersecurity suffers from is very high level of barrier to entry, right? I mean, you need like certified rocket scientists or people, and most often than not, it's the people rather than tool, which is preventing people from unlocking the potential of tools, right? And so our motto from day one is like, how do we dumb it down, all right? So right now we are in a very unique position wherein we have this amazing telemetry of data which is coming in, and our idea is using Gen AI not for the buzzword, right? But really dumbing it down so you could have non-certified people using it, right? And obviously increasing the coverage. It's a lot of exciting times for us. We offer comprehensive IT support. We're getting into operational technology, and so a few things coming up as well from a technical perspective. But really, we want to kind of cut down from the fluff in marketing and really give the product to customers to consume. I think so. One of the most profound things people realize about our platform is the time to value. Right. So typically in cybersecurity terminology, the time to value of any tool can be days and weeks, right, if not months. What do you think the time to value for a platform like Hive Pro could be? I want you to take an educated guess or a wild one.
I mean, I don't know, 6 months. Just throwing it.
Less than 1 hour. It's from the time.
I mean,
from the time you ingest
amazing,
the data, and
amazing.
That's the philosophy, right? Like have that iPhone like unpacking, getting used to it, and showing value, right? And so these are some very fundamental level problems that we want to solve. I could throw some technical jargon at you, like, hey, we are doing A, B, C, D, but that would be a self-professed ego trip, like 90% of my peers do in the market. We don't want that.
And may I just ask you, when you say time to value, it's time to value, I guess, is different than return on investment, because sometimes return on investment is hard to quantify in like cybersecurity, because it's like a lot of people still unfortunately look at security as a cost center rather than like something that's essential and can kind of like bring value in the company. And so maybe just if you can touch upon like the difference between time to value and a return on investment here.
Great point. I mean, you think return of investment is difficult in cybersecurity? Try that in predictive security, right? Where you anticipate and close attacks before it actually happens. And so, great point. So, time to value from my perspective is essentially from the time you start using certain things, when do you start having that aha moment? It's like, from the time you unpack an iPhone, from the time you make a call or just send a message, that's your time to value. Of course, in iPhone, you can start using camera and different things. And so for us, it's a very simple thing. Like the smallest use case for us could be prioritization. Like, give me your data, I'll start eliminating things that you did not know, right? And so if you think about like why do breaches happen, why do attacks happen, it's not what you know, it's what you don't know, right? Like let me ask you a question, Marco. If I were to tell you CB20179458 with a EPSS score of 4, a CVSS score of 9.5 exists in your network, what does it mean?
Absolutely nothing.
But this is how vulnerability management works right now, right? So it's very tactical. Instead of that, if I were to say, oh, by the way, you have an exposure to ransomware which could cause $800,000 in damage, what does it mean to you?
I guess you have to have a team of people that understand
or
the
not
implications.
or use a tool like Hive Pro to, and this is the exact problem that I was trying to highlight to you, right? The tools are so technical, think about, the challenge today is we don't lack tools, we lack clarity, right? Half the industry is just dashboarding, staring back while the attackers walk through front doors.
So you have all the fancy stats coming at you, which you don't understand. And I guess Hive Pro has a different approach where people almost like me can understand and protect.
Our mantra is dumb it down. Can I help you bring it to a very simplistic level? Why do we need to complicate, right? I mean, think about that entire BlackBerry versus iPhone thing. Everybody's like, oh, like I'm using BlackBerry messaging, or I'm taking like 4 or 5 days, and then iPhone came and said, hey, we're going to consumerize the entire smartphone experience. You need more people. The end game of cybersecurity is, want to prevent attackers, right? We have so many tools, we have so many acronyms, we have such a huge fatigue in consuming cybersecurity. That's incredible. And the only thing that you get measured upon is how many open tickets do you have, not how many closed tickets you have, right? And so it's mentally very stressful for people. So we want to kind of give people back the time for them to say, hey, I really need to present in a way to my management, my infrastructure team, my colleagues, wherein we make cybersecurity work, right? Have you heard about the blamestorming sessions which happens in cybersecurity between infrastructure and security team?
Right? Blamestorming. I love this term.
It does happen. Think about it, right? Like security team will come and say that, oh, go and fix this. And infrastructure team will say, oh, we cannot fix it because the server cannot afford downtime. And so if any breach happens, it comes to the security team. Oh, it happened because you did not fix it. Excuse me. The fixing was never on me. It was on the infrastructure team. And that's where the blamestorming session happens. I attended a session by, a very famous CISO. And he said, the full form of CISO is Chief Sacrificial Officer. That was brutal, right? Because they get sacrificed, and it's not a surprise that the average age of CISO in any organization is not more than 2-3 years, right? Because they get blamed for everything, right? So you want to give it back to them, saying, hey, can you dumb it down to a level where other people understand the implications of not doing things? Let me give you a very interesting statistic, right? They say the average time to remediate a vulnerability is 120 days, 90 days, right? It's in days, right? Like most organization would be like 4 weeks, 6 weeks. But do you know what is the time to detect those vulnerabilities? It's less than a day. It's fixing which takes more time.
Okay, that's
interesting. You don't break down the statistic. Right? When did you identify versus when you're fixing it, right? And so because fixing is always done by the infrastructure team, detection is done by the security team. And I'm not saying the infrastructure team is not doing the job. It's just the metrics which are set are fundamentally flawed. right? You could have
That's
aggressive
very
service.
interesting. So it's easy to detect it, but then the fixing part takes
Takes
way
time.
too long.
It's very tactical. It's broken. I mean, I could spend next half hour talking just about
And then we will definitely need the second session to get
but we're not going there today. But what I'm trying to say is
yeah.
it's fundamentally broken, right? And you want to give the power back. You want to, change the way people consume cybersecurity. And that's, at least on proactive security. We cannot boil the ocean, but we're going to disrupt the way people consume vulnerability management.
This is a great ending note. I like it. So thank you so much, Sarfaraz, for coming to the show, sharing these your story, but also these valuable insights, which gave me so much now, like so many new phrases that I will use. So that was all for today, and I hope we will catch up in future, either on another episode or maybe at some security event.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward to it. Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.